The ball fell to Erling Haaland. No need to mark him, Davo. He's not scored a league goal in 77 days. And he just span, supposedly weaker foot, lashed the ball with ferocity and anger and hate and bile and dreams of worlds being smashed by Nordic gods with gigantic hammers into smithereens. I mean, it was astonishing how hard he hit it.
From the Men in Blazers studios in the crap part of Bedford and from the OG crap part of Soho, it's the Men in Blazers video podcast presented by the GFOPs at Camarena, the world's most awarded tequila.
Oh, we back. Like the Kansas City Chiefs again, Davo. How are you doing?
Yeah, dynasty, Rog. Dynasty, Kansas City Chiefs. I'm doing okay. I enjoyed the Super Bowl last night. I enjoyed the entire broadcast.
Local NWSL owner wins Super Bowl. That was the highlight for me.
Yeah.
God bless Patrick Mahomes. He's a massive supporter of women's sports, co-owners with his wife of the Kansas City Current. Dude will never have to buy a burnt end in that town again, David. Kansas City back-to-back. David, let me ask you this one. Kansas City plays Manchester City. Who wins?
At what sport?
Just answer the question however you want to answer the question. This is not happening. This is completely... I just tell you, David, it's not happening. But so if it is, it's in your imagination. How do you see it going down?
Yeah, I mean, Pep versus Wilford Brimley. It's interesting. I don't know. I sort of think that the Chiefs ultimately, maybe the Taylor Swift thing, maybe, Mahomes versus De Bruyne, who is the greater improviser in the middle of the field, Haaland and Travis Kelce. There are matchups all over the field. I don't know who the Kansas City Chief, equivalent of Jackie Greals is. Who's got the legs? Jackie Greals may be more than Kelce. I don't know.
I got to tell you that the O-line of the Kansas City Chiefs will be looking at Jack's legs in envy and in awe. Probably Mr. Wings while he's down in that salt and pepper chicken. At Jim Shinney, we asked this question over Twitter, came back with a classic prediction. Graham Zusi kicks a 70-yard field goal for the win as time expires in the 60th minute, which I just love, Dave. But I think the smartest response was from GFOP at Newt Sports, who said, "Is there a salary cap?
Oh.
And is it enforced?"
Oh, yeah. I hardly see the NFL instituting that same kind of rigor. I don't think that's going to happen.
Oh, God. My favourite tweet of the entire night came towards the end of the game when the cameras cut to, I don't know if you saw this, Dave, they cut to Blake Lively and Taylor Swift just losing their crap at the end of the game. And producer J-Dubs tweeted, Blake Lively to Taylor Swift. And if you think that was exciting, just wait until the League Two playoffs.
Yeah, I thought that was great. I also enjoyed someone's description on Twitter /X of the halftime show, of Usher's halftime show, as basically being a Saudi Arabian prince's 15th birthday party, which I enjoyed. It was basically all it was. Just the Saudi princes are watching that thinking, that's it? That's all you've got?
No,
I had that for my 15th, my quinceanera.
I've got to tell you, God, to get your nipples out at that age and for them to be both of them, to have one nipple in that fine fettle, but to have both of them, just utterly, utterly incredible. I will say, I can't wait for the halftime show of World Cup 2034. They're going to just have, oh my God, they're going to have ideas on ideas on ideas.
I think it's going to be Creed.
You do?
Yeah. Berhalter's producing it. He's
I've just suddenly realised 2034, they're going to do what they did with Jordan Henderson, just get the most valued, principled human being and just pervert them. They're going to have Tracy Chapman do the halftime show of the 2034 World Cup.
They're going to back up a truck to Tracy Chapman.
She's going to jump at the money and just say, I could not do it. It was generational. I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it for the football.
Tracy Chapman and Creed.
Yeah. She's going to say, I'm not doing it for the money. Doing it for the football, the love of football. Can I just say, talking about the love football, Tracy. Whatever they're paying you, I'll pay you more not to do it. I promise you.
you won't.
I will.
You don't have the. I don't
Well,
think. Well, maybe.
I don't have to have the money. I'll just do what 777 do and say I've got the money.
Oh,
But you don't
good.
actually.
That's the Everton way now.
Yeah, we're in a post actually having the money world. Well, and I love it. By the way,
I like it. It's like Byron Allen, 777, and Rog. I love it.
Can I just say, watching the joy of Chiefs fans last night, and so many of you in that incredibly, just football of all kinds, fertile land of Kansas City, where we spent so much time with that incredible club down there sporting. Hello, Peter Vermes, you beautiful human being. Watching the joy of Chiefs fans, I just hope last night I got a text right after the game from my eldest son, Samson, who's at school in New Orleans, just saying, Dad, it's going to be you and me next year in New Orleans with the Bears in the Super Bowl. And I just thought in my heart, I was like, oh my God, I would love just once with my kids to make those kind of memories that Chiefs fans have had so many times in the past couple of years, starting in New Orleans next February. Make it happen, Caleb Williams.
It's amazing that that with your constant pessimism about all of your teams, it's the most beautiful thing that somehow just a little bit of sap has gone from your tree and your children still have such hope and optimism.
Yes.
It's a gorgeous thing.
And I get to, please God, live long enough to see it absolutely shit kicked out of them. Miserable season after miserable season. It's probably going to be my proudest achievement as a father.
Okay. Before we get to the Premier League, soccer, a quick word about everything coming up at Men in Blazers World Headquarters this week. Rog, you're off to Wales for a week of packed shooting with Wrexham and our Welsh correspondent, Tommy Cheese Lewis.
Oh, that is right, Davo. We are headed to God's country, North Wales, to take with Mr. Cheese in person. I have not been to Wrexham. I've been to Wrexham back in the old days when they were really Wrexham. I used to go and watch a game or two with my dad. It's like 45 minutes, 50 minutes away from Liverpool. I'm so bloody fond of the team and the town. Obviously changed so much since I was last there. And I'm so bloody excited. We've got interviews lined up with that hardened Premier League veteran who joined Wrexham to start the season, Stephen Fletcher, and also fan favourite and my favourite, Elliot Lee. Can't wait to sit down with those two gents. And above all, with Rosie Hughes, the human phenomenon propelling the rise of Wrexham women, who honestly stole season 2 of Welcome to Wrexham for me. But above all, I can't wait to shoot with Tommy at the Stoke Kairas next Saturday's game against frenemies, Notts County. We'll explore the town with them. I think there'll be pies. There'll be late night kebabs. We'll be hunting down North Wales' best pie in the run up to match day to find a real sense of place and a real sense of the community around this club will be the biggest joy. It's going to be magic, David.
In search of pies and kebabs. It's just like any other Men in Blazers trip to Britain. We should say that everything you shoot will be available on the Men in Blazers YouTube page, so be sure to subscribe. But before you go, Rog, we should note that with the return of the Champions League, comes the return of European nights with you and the New York Times' Rory Smith celebrating the biggest storylines in the world's most prestigious club competition. And this week, you're talking to none other, great timing, than Xabi Alonso's Bayer Leverkusen, which took a 5-point lead atop the Bundesliga this weekend after seeing off Harry Kane's Bayern Munich. That will drop tomorrow. But for today, Rog, start us off with a toast.
I want to raise my first Michelob Ultra of the day, best Mickey since Arteta, to the end of the Asian Cup and the Africa Cup of Nations, our two friends, which both wrapped up over the weekend, both being won by the home nation. Qatar defended their Asian Cup title, beating 87 in the world, Jordan, who go by the fantastic nickname Al Nashama, the Chivalrous. I do love that. God, can you imagine supporting a team who were called the Chivalrous? They won 3-1. Qatar, Akam Afif scoring a hat-trick, all 3 goals via penalty kicks. The first he celebrated, I crap you not, by pulling a set of cards out of his sock and doing a card trick into the camera like some kind of footballing Joe Bluth. And in Africa, Ivory Coast won the title for the 3rd time. Came back from a goal down against Nigeria to do so. They won 3-1. Immense win for so many reasons. 3 times in the knockout stage they've been behind. Each time they rose from the dead to prevail. And as my friend John Green tweeted, what a story. Ivory Coast win AFCON at home after finishing third in their group, firing their coach along the way. Former player steps in to lead the team, which goes on an amazing run, and the winning goal is scored by a testicular cancer survivor, Sebastian Allaire. Incredible. AFCON is undefeated. It really is a real immense human story, recognised by John, who's made a career or two out of writing immense human stories, to all in Ivory Coast. Big love, courage.
Okay, Rog, beautiful. Now to the football and this 3-card Monty of a Premier League title race. We begin with West Ham 0, Arsenal 6. That's right, West Ham 0, Arsenal 6. 1 week after kickstarting their season with a massive win over Liverpool, Arsenal dispel any notion of a trap game by issuing bubble suppressant early and often. It was 4-0 at halftime. And it could have been much worse. Not even as close as it sounds this game, Rog. Bukayo made it 5 with his second goal of the day. And then, like a Cockney Salt Bay, Declan Rice sprinkled sodium in the Irons' wounds by blasting home a 6th against his former club. Oh, Arsenal stay in third place, just 2 points behind Liverpool. But wow, what a statement win this was.
What a game. I mean, Arsenal treated West Ham a bit like Brittany Mahomes treated Jackson Mahomes. And at kickoff, there were just boos, tiny bit of applause, but plenty of two-finger welcomes for Declan Rice when he trotted over in warm-ups. This is his first league return since decamping. A lad who was at West Ham since he was 14, led them to European glory, moved over the summer to Arsenal for 138 million big ones. Even more boos for Saka, who West Ham fans have found a multitude of reasons to detest over the years. And at some point, it does say more about you than it does about poor Saka. But Arsenal was slow to start. That will be forgotten by history against a team who'd already beaten them twice this season. But the joy of that West Ham 2-0 win at the Emirates December 28th already feels like a lifetime ago, blotted out by a debacle of a first half demolition in which Arsenal blasted 4 goals in 50 minutes. It began just past the half hour. Ben White bumping the keeper on purpose to prevent him from tracking the flight of a ball off a corner, giving Saliba a header he put away like a putback dunk. Saka then timed a perfect run. One converted a penalty, became, David, this is incredible, the youngest player to score 50 goals for Arsenal in 46 years since the great Frank Stapleton back in 1978. He's 22 years old, 49 assists in there too. I mean, what a consistent young hero who seems refreshed again after that week-long break in Dubai over the winter holidays, which separates the dark times for Arsenal fans from these current glorious moments again.
Yeah, he needed that break, and it looks like so did Arsenal, Rog, because once they got ahead, it was West Ham almost conceded the game. It was bizarre to watch, and Saka at the center of everything that was good, a sort of a leitmotif almost for this club.
It would soon be 3. Declan Rice got his second assist, curling in a free kick into West Ham's Kenny Loggins danger zone. Arsenal players lining up to get it. I mean, Gabriel was the one who lumped his head on it. 4th goal in 6 Premier League games for that Arsenal defender. We've got to say, set piece coach, let's say his name, Nicholas Jova. Arsenal brought him in from Manchester City. He's the gent who deserves so much bloody credit for this. Second half of the season, please God, Arsenal resurrection. 11 of their goals this season have come off corners, 16 total from set pieces. I think it's like 31%-ish, my maths is rough, of their goals scored. Again, this is not about the US men's national team, but it is. If teams practice and drill ingenious set pieces like Arsenal, innovative, cohesive, collective plays, it makes a world of difference.
It does. I mean, we've seen multiple teams, both domestic and international, do this in competitions. And what Arsenal are doing right now, it is, that whole thing, 3 men lining up in extreme offside positions. You could see the doubt that put in the West Ham defenders' heads, and just a beautiful finish. Any 3 of those guys could have scored. It was, as you said, it was Gabriel who got his head on it.
On the cusp of half-time, Trossard struck a poem of a goal to make it 4. I honestly didn't know it was legal for Arsenal to score a goal from open play. That goal, at the time, it felt like as close as I hope we'd ever come to a little Belgian dancing on David Moyes' grave. It was a goal that launched 1,000 stop, he's already dead memes. West Ham fans started to stream en masse out of the stadium. I mean, I felt for them. They'd been so excited to watch this game all bloody week. They'd been there less than a half. And their only highlight was booing Rice before kickoff. Football. That's why we watch, for the booing, right, David?
Yeah, that's pretty much all they had. And look, one of the things that made this so impressive to me, this Arsenal performance, um, is London derbies. It is horrible playing a London derby when you're a top team going to a team that is slightly below. And West Ham have had a really good season, but I got to tell you, it would have been tough for me to like, I know Arsenal were slight favourites going in, but it would have been tough for me to put money on them going into this game. Difficult place to play these days, London Stadium. Playing against those fans, all of that previous with Declan and Bukayo Saka, as you mentioned. But to do this in a London derby, this kind of a first half performance, just putting them away, putting them on their backs,
And
I was
keeping going.
frankly blown away. Yes,
Keeping going. I mean, goal difference is a thing in this three-horse
definitely.
title race that we're pretending is a three-horse title race. So they kept on treating West Ham like the US women treated Thailand. Saka skipped through the back line like Billy Elliott to make it 5. And just when you thought it could not get worse for West Ham fans, it bloody did. Declan Rice, 2 assists already to his name on the day, swooped upon a ball on the edge of the box and with precision and artistry just spanked it with curl past the diving, despairing, quite shell-shocked Areola at this point. He then refused to celebrate so hard that it
Yeah.
almost became a celebration in its own right, while tapping his heart and his Arsenal badge. It was honestly hard to tell which. The goal, exquisite. But I got to say, Declan's ability to keep a straight face in the wake, that was truly world class, right, David?
Yeah, it was the most non-celebratory non-celebration in the history of non-celebrations. He almost would try to quieten down his own, not only his teammates but his own fans, even those watching at home and around the world. He really didn't want anybody to celebrate. I thought he was going to go into his pocket, rip out his checkbook, and start writing checks of some of the 138 million and give that back to the West Ham fans. At that point, it was a hard denial of joy.
Oh god, it was up there with Frank Lampard face against Chelsea when he was at City and he scored the goal. It's
Oh, it
almost
still
like
hurts.
it was just almost such a vampish non-celebration. Almost comes around the other side and becomes more celebratory. But he was substituted almost immediately. To applause. There was hard to tell how many West Ham fans participated exactly in that act, as almost all of them seem to have already vacated the premises at that point. But a clean sheet and 6 goals for the Arsenal, who played honestly like Usher on bloody roller skates. A team. I'm old enough to remember when um, we all said they need a striker. They need more goal machines. They can't be taken seriously. They're now level with Manchester City on goal difference. It was very businesslike at the end. No photographic celebration. 4th straight win to start 2024. That memory of the dark December dip now banished. But for the Hammers, Davo, won't someone think of all those unused bubbles just sitting there in their bubble machine? Worst home defeat in the Premier League era. David Moyes, his team, not won since that December 28th wonder at Arsenal. Hard to tell if West Ham were so utterly abject or Arsenal just made them look so dank. I think 2019, when Moyes was appointed in his second coming, they were 1 point above the bottom 3. He's turned them into European regulars, yet his contract is up in June. And I'll say the flip-flop of agony over whether it will be renewed, whether it should be renewed. It grinds on. Poor Moyes, honestly, reminds me in his eyes and in his character of Nelson Van Alden in the later seasons of Boardwalk Empire. He said post game, I take responsibility. But it must have sickened him to say, Davo, we were weak. We didn't do our jobs well enough. Nothing can hurt that man and his work ethic than having to say those words about a team he manages.
Yeah, and especially the nature of their defending that was abysmal in this game. It just didn't look like the kind of effort. We say all the time that the players are terrified of David Moyes. They didn't look terrified today. They didn't look terrified of the consequences and the tongue lashing they were all going to get at halftime and at the end of the game. So yeah, it's been a very, very bad start to 2024 for that club.
I always feel like David Moyes is a human being who perpetually deserves more respect. However, there is a feeling that his football, his style of football, in which possession is rarely the aim. It's honestly the antithesis of that. Is so cruel on the eye, even when they win game after game. That life's honestly too short. Life is too hard. Life is too grueling for it to come close to what we want from football in this modern day and age, which is entertainment.
Mm.
Godspeed to him.
Okay, now to the team that cast a massive shadow over the rest of the league this weekend, even though they only sat atop the table briefly. That's Manchester City, who beat your mob, Everton, 2-0. But the Toffees held out valiantly for 71 minutes, Rog, before
If we were together, you'd be patting me on my head
I would
as
be
we said
before
that.
Erling Haaland picked the Toffees lock
I'll
with
pat
a
myself.
sledgehammer, scoring twice in the game's last 20 minutes. His first goal since November, and even though it only put City atop briefly, the sound of Haaland's hoofs coming around the outside are now way too loud for all the haters to ignore.
God, the game, my brother, and about 1,000 other Liverpool fans in my life sent me memes before kickoff of El Cheetico, Everton, that punctured point deducted pinata facing up to the externally hovering 115 charges, double treble seeker. Sean Dyche, his 300th Premier League game as manager, never beaten Pep before. Indeed, Everton haven't won at the Etihad since 2010, so he tried something new. After 3 yellow cards, banned from the touchline, had to sit in the stands, sitting there shouting into a tiny little influencer microphone while witnessing the carnage. Looked a bit like a general on a hill way above the battle as his armies are slaughtered in the valley below. City, as you say, they could have gone top for the first time since September if they won. I felt for all the Liverpool and Arsenal fans tuning in 7:30 a.m. in the morning East Coast time, begging Everton, praying that Everton would do them a huge solid. David, I mean, that's like hoping that Paul Blart and his little segue are definitely going to stop the heist at the West Orange Pavilion Mall. I know he does in the movie, David,
Yeah,
but not in real life, right?
yeah, not in the reality show of Paul Blart. Yeah, it was. But having said that, Rog, you started to really believe 60 minutes on the clock, 65 minutes on the clock. I know you'd got up early. This is going to also for you, this is going to frame your entire mood over the entire weekend. You've talked about this before, an early morning Saturday kickoff. And they held them off. They did
Yeah, it
well.
was weird. I didn't have hope. It's a very weird thing getting up at 7:30 in the morning. It's the second time Everton have played in this slot in consecutive weeks. It's kind of like getting up, not with hope. You're kind of getting up to watch your own execution.
Uh-huh.
That's what it feels like. If anyone out there has actually been executed, I'm
Yeah.
sure you're nodding your heads as I say that.
Email us at meninblazers at
Yeah,
gmail.com.
just it was like City came out determined to just absolutely batter us into smithereens. Haaland like a giant trebuchet with a bad fade in between our defenders. Foden scurrying around like a human hand grenade with its pin out. John Stone's been used against us like Spurs used Richarlison, like ice dragons turned against us at the Battle of Winterfell. City just ran up that possession stat. And I started to watch Dave and just wish there was alternative audio to the game where instead of him and the commentator, you could just watch the game and hear what Sean Dyche was shouting into his tiny influencer microphone. Just like, I imagine him just being like, just over and over for 70 minutes, just screaming, Fucking hell! Fucking spelled Fookin over and over and over in between, like just occasionally saying, 1, 2, 3, testing, 1, 2, 3, Fucking hell!
Yeah.
What do you imagine this gentleman could be telling his assistants that
Isn't
they didn't know?
that's chapter 4 in Sean Dyche's coaching manual? It's just fucking hell.
Yeah, chapter 4 is the word fuck is spelled fook.
Yeah, you don't really perceive Sean Dyche doing the same kind of work as Arsenal's set piece coach.
Yeah.
It's not that similar. It's not nor is it the sort of the deep psychological handling of and care for each individual player like Jurgen Klopp.
What do you think he says? What do you think that these assistants have not heard before from him in key moments? What could he possibly be screaming?
Yeah, he's certainly not. I love you, lads. I'm proud of you all. I'm proud of you all. You make me feel whole. These are things Sean Dyche has never said, even to his kids.
I mean, God,
Oh,
for the lols, do you think he like occasionally just breaks into lines from Run DMC's groundbreaking King of Rock
maybe.
album? DMC stands for devastating mic control. You can't touch me with a 10-foot pole, lads. No, he's not saying that. He's just saying, fucking hell. And probably putting in an order for a post-match curry. I'll have a vindaloo, a goat vindaloo. I'm feeling a bit frothy. I've got to say, this game, very, very odd to watch. I mean, City did completely and utterly hug the ball, but the speed of mind that they normally have, it was more like watching an athlete before they were going to break the 100-meter record, just stretching a little bit. The Everton were able to, with their work rate and energy, collective energy, were able to block and withstand, and it did become kind of a stalemate, as you say, for like right into 70 minutes. If you want to know what it was like, David, it was like being a fly, I imagine. And flies listening, if you're listening, flies, and you're nodding along with this, again, meninblazers@gmail.com. If you've ever been a fly that's tortured by a really sadistic kid tearing your wings off, that's what that's what it felt like watching David, because you just knew. It was like Everton looked like an NFL team who couldn't keep their offense on the field, 3 and out every time. You could just see the defense strong, but just panting, being ground down, mentally as well as physically shattered. And you just knew what. So it was crazy because it felt like for one half devoid of hope, Everton, also devoid of atmosphere. It was very weird. City could go top of the table, but it maybe like Augustus Gloop during just drowning in chocolate. At a certain stage, chocolate and winning gets boring, Davo. Felt airless, felt atmosphereless. Half time, the frustration had built. God, it was very. David, why do we not? Football is obsessed with new rules like blue cards, whatever, wankery. If we're going to have new rules, why don't we make proper ones? Like, you should honestly get a point for silencing the Etihad by halftime.
Oh, I see. You could do the clapometer. You could figure out the noise levels, and you could get
Yeah,
something.
or making Pep so frustrated that he takes his coat off in anger. Should that not be worth something?
Yeah, and bonus points or the not giving a bonus points. You just really want the, knowing the bounce you got from the points deduction, Rog. You just want to not be given bonus points when you should have been given bonus points for silencing the Etihad, so that you could be unhappy about it and your boys would propel forward and do very nicely.
Pep's coat's off. Wicked. There you go. +1. Second, I mean, we should get a bonus point for making City go to their bench, that bench. Yeah. I mean, 57 minutes. Pep unleashed Kevin De Bruyne and Kyle Walker. And by the way, the quality on Pep's bench would have made a better opponent than Everton's first 11 by far. Felt like a war movie when the enemy just mid-battle unleashes a dastardly next generation weapon. Psychologically terrifying to watch KDB enter. But again, City had not had a shot on target through 60 minutes. Game became just a set of corner drills. And off City's 9th corner, we finally folded. Everton creaking, some slop. The ball fell too early in Haaland. No need to mark him, Dave. He's not scored a league goal in 77 days. And he just span, supposedly weaker foot, lashed the ball with ferocity and anger and hate and bile and dreams of worlds being smashed by Nordic gods with gigantic hammers into smithereens. I mean, it was astonishing how hard he hit it.
When I watched this goal, all I thought about is, I wonder which of Rodgers' sounds he's making right now as that ball hits the back of the net. Because I've been around your sounds. I know you've got a few different sounds that you make when your teams get scored against. Some of them are just sort of sighs, some of them are groans, some of them are gasps, some of them are almost yells, howls. I just wondered which one of your sounds came out.
It wasn't, I had no hope. It was just,
you were resigned.
I was like so almost in a sick way, happy that my worst reality had happened and my limbs still worked. I was still, able to function. The worst thing had happened possibly to me. And it was that the ball. I felt fear for Jordan Pickford, his little Tyneside body. The ball just smashed straight through it, upwards into the net at a terrifying velocity. The net would have been in its own right just to sail off with the ball out of the stadium and travel to like Valhalla or Helheim or some other afterlife location.
Yeah,
that was it, really.
I mean, Birmingham.
Yeah, those are the 3 choices, aren't they? Valhalla, Helheim, or Birmingham.
Pretty much.
Liverpool fans, Arsenal fans, I'm sorry. We tried our hardest, but we are what we are. We're Everton. We're the eternal slump busters. GFOP at Philly Jack posted on our Insta 77 days for Haaland since scoring a goal. Then 10 minutes later, he gets his next 4:30 a.m. start for me. 75 minutes of hope. I hate that I married into an Everton family. God bless you, Philly Jack. Yes, it would soon be two. Everton started to attack or try to attack. It was like watching the Battle of Chaldiran in 1514, fought between the Safavidan Persians who attacked with swords against the Ottoman Turks who'd embraced gunpowder and guns. It was pretty much the first time we entered the Manchester City area. We were just mowed down with ease. Ball fed out to Haaland. He was one-on-one with our sweet prince, Jared Brantwaite. And I was like, Dave, in my head, this is the worst part of my weekend. I was like, no worries. JB32 got this. My son's got a shirt with JB32 on the back. JB is like his hero. He's our only hope. Don't worry. Nothing bad can happen when JB32 is playing alongside Tark. And JB32 is coming together with Haaland like atoms colliding. And the giant Norwegian atom just utterly obliterated our little Cumbrian atom, hit him almost with a Derrick Henry stiff arm, sent him sprawling head first. Davo, Haaland, not content with scoring on us, he had to emasculate our hero warrior in the... It was like watching, if Haaland had, and he had in a way, just leant over poor Jared when he was on the floor, ripped his heart out, lifted it up above his head, laughed, and then devoured it still warm heart in front of JB32's dying eyes. It wouldn't have hurt me anymore, David. That's how shocking this moment was.
Yeah, I didn't see all of that when I watched that second goal, but
The
I do
heart
understand.
bit.
Yeah, but I do understand. I sort of understand where you're going.
Did you not?
Not all of. Didn't see all of that.
But
all of that.
You know what I'm saying? They couldn't
detail.
just beat us. They had to destroy.
They had to humiliate. They had to humiliate your boy Wonder, and I think that's City, right? That's what they'll do to you ultimately. That's why I think you talked about this so-called 3-horse race, is that still there is this sense we've got a title race for the ages with sort of 3 teams going at it, and yet we still sort of think that the ending feels somewhat inevitable, that Man City are going to bludgeon everyone.
It's true. By the way, did you have a thing at school called the cock of the school? It's like the hardest lad in the school, cock of the school.
Yeah.
And like when there were real rumbles against other schools, and there were a lot in in Liverpool, always massive fights against other schools. Occasionally, and I don't know who organised it, but the cock of the school would be sent out to fight the other team's cock of the school, and it was just the most savage things to this day. Nowadays, somebody would have it on YouTube. School cockfighting.
Yeah.
Liverpool.
We had one guy. We had one kid in the. I remember when I was maybe in the upper 4th or lower 5th. We had one kid in the lower 6th who knew kung fu.
Yeah,
and we would send him out.
But we had one of them.
But he got devastated, and I remember just Rob Wicello then walks up holding like a retort stand that he's taken out of chemistry class and just nuts the other guy over the head with it, and it's all over.
It's always that guy. It is always that guy. We had one who I won't name just for legal reasons, but he was just so like other people were great fighters, but he'd just go to different. He'd just like pick up a cricket bat out of his anus and just stop beating. It was just that. But that's what it was. Our cock, JB32, met theirs, Davo, and was utterly turned into ashes and dust. And we can now, for the rest of the campaign, just carry him around in a little JB32 tin. Haaland's first goal for 77 days. He wasn't in a goal drought. He was just intermittent fasting, Davo. 2 shots on target, 2 goals. Now 51 league goals in just 50 league games. I mean, God, we talk about a Bundesliga tax. He is making the Premier League look like no one else has ever made it look. City didn't even come close to their best. They didn't have to. They were a winning machine, able to toss on KDB, Walker, Grealish, Bernardo Silva, just incessant ruthlessness. Steel sharpening steel. No one can compete with the quality they've amassed legally or illegally. We'll one day find out about the 115 charges, even though their lawyers are better than our lawyers. But in the meantime, the winning goes on relentlessly. Haaland very much back. An FA Cup 5th round tie against Luton away. It's a trip to Copenhagen on Tuesday in the Champions League last 16 first leg. Jacob Steinberg in The Guardian wrote that we've reached the stage of the season in which a chilling efficiency has cast over City. Can anything stop Manchester City from the double treble?
Look, I've said from the beginning, I think they're the best team in the league. They're still the best team in the league. We do have this title race. They've not put it away.
Title race.
But now they've won 5 games in a row, Rog, in the Premier League to start off this year. And wow, it'd be hard to bet against them. Very, very hard.
You know
to
who
bet
they're
against
playing
them.
next?
Well, is it Chelsea?
Chelsea.
Yeah.
You're our only hope, Chelsea.
No,
What could possibly go wrong?
I wouldn't do that. We only really bring it out for cup competitions. We've given up on the league.
For Everton, darkness. City fans reveling in our demise, singing "Cheating gets you nowhere." No, down the stretch. Let's just see where we are when all this Premier League charge thing shakes out. But for now, Everton, who, by the way, are expecting to hear the results of their first appeal against the initial 10-point deduction this week, are 1 point from safety in the relegation zone, with next Monday night's game against Crystal Palace at Goodison Park, which I have the misfortune to actually be at. It seems so big. It seems Florida Cup final big, David.
Yeah, that'll be a big game. Okay, Rog, Liverpool came into
send
their
our
game.
cock out. Who's our next cock to send out against Crystal Palaces? Why
don't you just always use Duncan Ferguson? It'd be crazy not to use anybody other than him.
God, just send him and Stevie. We should have tag team cocks. It should be Duncan Ferguson and Stephen Naismith. Yeah. Wellard. Just coming out against whoever you want to put out Crystal Palace.
Yeah. And who's that Everton fan who wiped his snot against some fan? We showed that on Men in Blazers a few years ago.
That would be the greatest trio. Royal Rumbles. I like this cock idea. Trophies. I tell you who we should put out, not the snot guy, because he didn't represent the club in the best way to which we're accustomed. I'd like pink shirt guy, the guy who hid the ball under his under his sweatshirt when we needed to run time down the clock. That guy was top 5 all time.
Okay. Liverpool, Rog, came into their game against Burnley, having lost at Arsenal last week and needing a result to retain the top spot at the end of the match day. And they did the business against the struggling Clarets, winning 3-1. But, this wasn't as straightforward as it sounds. Diogo Jota headed the Reds in front in the 31st minute, only for Burnley to draw level right before the break with a bullet header from even further out from Dara O'Shea. 6 minutes after the half, Liverpool pulled ahead via a Luis Diaz goal that almost sent Vinny Kompany into Lupinella mode with that baseball cap because of what he saw as a clear foul from Alexis McAllister in the build-up. Burnley then proceeded to squander 2 brilliant chances before Darwin Núñez added a third, and Liverpool end the weekend top of the table.
God, what kind of a response would Liverpool summon after last week's impotent defeat at Arsenal? Here, they face Vincent Kompany, City legend, with his minnow Burnley, in front of Anfield's biggest ever home league crowd of 59,896, most in the club's 132-year history. Before kickoff, flu had descended upon the Liverpool camp, bit like Spanish flu sweeping through Downton Abbey season 2, episode 6. Oh, rest in peace, Lady Lavinia Catherine Swire. Alisson and Gomez out, and maybe because of that, Burnley started comfortably tearing forward. Fofana again, 2 goals last week. No fear this. Liverpool strangely sluggish, but in half an hour they snapped into life. Trent Corner, what would be his record-breaking 58th assist, most ever for a defender in the Premier League, wafted central, and poor James Trafford in Burnley's goal. Teams just know they can bully him off set pieces. Conceded late against Luton in controversial fashion when he was bodied and just flung himself to the floor. Instead of cleaning out all comers again, ran into his own defender, O'Shea, took himself out of the play, leaving probably the worst player to leave open. Diogo Jota, the economist dream, to head home with his 6th goal in his last 8 Premier League games. Davo, this XG king, I think his last 9 goals, Diogo Jota, have been scored off a 6.39 XG. He is beating expected goals by nearly a third. He's just clinical. As I say, an economist's dream.
Every man needs a motivation, Rog. This is his. He's just trying to beat his own expected goals. I love it. But yeah, Burnley had looked lively from the beginning, but Liverpool took this lead. And you kind of thought that Burnley were going to wilt.
Yeah, you did. You thought, job done. I think I was like, Burnley, assume the position. I laughed, but Burnley had other ideas, continued to play their style of football, which is normally it's fragile, play out the back, over optimistic, naive. But here, right before half time, off a corner, Dara O'Shea leapt up, nowhere near him, Endo. I like to believe he screamed, JJ, what the fuck? I think all Burnley players should shout that out as they score. Headed it with determination into the corner. And it was like, Liverpool, I was like, you had one bloody job to save Everton from relegation. Okay, two jobs. Yeah, you also win the league for yourselves, but don't be selfish. You weren't doing either with aplomb. And Liverpool came out for the second half without Trent Alexander-Arnold, who felt an awareness. A worried Klopp said post-game, same area, same knee, felt it when he got his stud stuck in the grass. We'll wait and see. Godspeed to him. Harvey Elliott replaced him, and it was his energy that actually changed the game. McAllister seemed to go through Aaron Ramsey on the edge of the Burnley area, but he didn't go down. No decision given. Ball ricocheted near the byline, and it was Elliott who swooped his cross, deflected, was nodded home by Luis Diaz with a smart, brave run at the near post. Kelleher came up big to smother Fofana. I mean, Burnley could have got something out of this, reinforcing his slightly probs not wanted best number 2 in the league tag. Fofana slopped another one wide. Burnley creating chances, but who killed it off? My mate, Darwin Núñez, off a fine recycled clip cross by one Harvey Elliott. It was Núñez, so often mocked, but only by those who don't know. First goal at Anfield since October, yes. But Liverpool do not lose when Darwin starts. They just don't. And here, David, that header from distance, the angle, the ability to suppress the desire to hit the woodwork that must have gripped his body, it was magnificent. Darwin goals should count double for the joy they bring Liverpool fans when they go in. Dude is just pure Uruguayan Jack Sparrow. He's a life force, and I do love him. Liverpool find the way to match City for now. The positive goals for all three forwards and all three attacking starters whose names start with a D. Darwin, Diaz, Diogo. They should surely sign Dwight McNeil and the title will be theirs. 3 points, but what was important, performance probably will be forgotten. Though in reality, there was this. After 19 games, Liverpool were 8 points clear of Manchester City. Now the gap's just 2. City have a game in hand. Crucial Liverpool continue to hold serve until City arrive March 10th. But it did get better for Liverpool fans post-game because there were other team that they suddenly love. Bayer Leverkusen, smashed by Munich 3-0, and putative coach in waiting, Xavi Alonso, now 5 points clear of Bayern in the Bundesliga. As they say in Merseyside, wunderbar.
Okay, this was a great game of football, Rog. Aston Villa 1, Man United 2. Fourth hosts 6th in a game with massive top 4 implications, and it was United who hit first through red-hot Rasmus Haaland, who slammed home his 5th goal in as many games in just his 16th minute. But this Villa team is never out of a game under old Basque battle axe Unai Emery. They started to turn the screw, and in the 67th minute, Douglas Luiz leveled things before giving it loads in Raphael Varane's face. And despite Villa continuing to create chance after chance, it was United's saviour, that Lancaster bomber in football boots, Scott McTominay, with an 85th minute header that makes it 4 wins on the bounce in all competitions. United move within 5 points of Villa, who drop down to 5th place.
God, Manchester United, I think it was Barney Renee in The Guardian in a really lovely piece of writing. They arrived in what he called a recent mini takeover bounce. And he had it quite wonderfully. The lines are diverging. There are actually happy, talented, youthful footballers running around Old Trafford like crocus buds inside the Chernobyl exclusion zone. I fucking love that so much. Ten Hag, 3-game win streak, all comps propelled by that raw promise of those crocus buds. Garnacho, Mainu, Rasmus Højlund declared every game from here on to be a cup final. And against Villa, also fighting for a top 4 place. It felt honestly more like a Champions League playing game. Unai Emery, 100th Premier League match, set his team up in the early exchanges, as is his wont, with their insanely high, risky defensive line, which Rashford and Garnacho broke through in flurries as Villa attempted to work their way up the United left, targeting Dalot with a probing relentlessness. Got to remember, last Boxing Day, Villa had led by 2 at the break against United, only to wilt in that second half. This was a game in which young Rasmus Højlund lost his Premier League virginity, so to speak. And here again, it was he who opened the scoring off a corner. The impressively resilient Harry Maguire, who had himself a game, got his enormous moneymaker of a forehead on that ball to nod it right in front of us, suddenly exposed Emi Martinez. And it was the man that United fans call Oldie Brand Haaland, who reacted so quickly to prod the ball home from close range. 5 in 5 for Rasmus Davies. I've got to say, the rise and redemption from the narrative of 1,004 barren minutes of goalless league football to become now a potent goal machine gives me so much joy.
Yeah, he's turned the intensity up on himself. Like the entire game, he's like getting into fights, yelling at people, like aggressive. But that works for him. He needs to run a little hot, you feel, to get the best performance. Very sort of un-Scandinavian of him. But he's running hot and he's just playing fantastic football.
Villa, they took the punch on the chin. United had no control of this game at all. Despite, it's got to be said, Mainu looks wise beyond his years. I love watching him on the ball. Villa, though, roll forward, wave after wave. Just a lack of composure haunted them. Closest they came, John McGinn, whipping one on the lash at Onana, who parried. Great save, made even better by the fact Onana, I mean, he played incredible in this game. 8 saves, I think, total. But he has a flamboyantly vaudevillian style, Dave. It's very few keepers have it, but he manages to make every single save feel about 1.7 times better. It's amazing to watch. His body seems to absorb shot more than any goalkeeper I've ever seen before.
Also, I've never seen a goalkeeper play more on his knees than Onana. He seems to be on his knees at almost every opportunity. Loves it on his knees.
Also has an incredible ability to make, and this must be something that he can do because it happened again and again. Strikers with the ball from close range shoot directly at him. I know there's some scientific, in a split second, is something strikers train against. The body, the mind actually do naturally gravitate towards the point of focus, and strikers try and counter negate that. But in this game, from incredible positions, Ollie Watkins, increasingly frustrated, struck the ball at Onana's chest, making himself big. I mean, God, in this game, Ollie Watkins' finishing was at levels only known to Gronk in FanDuel's Super Bowl kick of destiny, David.
Yeah. Aston Villa definitely missed some chances, but I also thought that United defended very well in this game. You mentioned Harry Maguire earlier. He did have a very, very good game. And to me, this was one of the most impressive aspects of Man United's performance and potentially resurgence, rebirth in the Premier League.
Just how proper organised, proper tough. I mean, respect. This is about to United's rear guard, their concentration, their focus, repelling Bailey and McGinn and Watkins' intensity, particularly when Luke Shaw had gone off and Lindelof was there and they were just kept charging down his flank. That backline worked harder than Usher changing outfits during the halftime show. It was amazing. Honestly, United's greatest strengths going forward was Marcus Rashford bursting at Matty Cash. Kamara had to limp off. Emery threw on Moussa Diaby, just an all-out attack move that said to his charges, just keep on doing this. We got this. And within 2 minutes, it paid off. Corner scrap, Onana twitching on the goal line, slop and chaos everywhere, ball recycled. Douglas Luiz slapped it in and I don't know what you'd call the Celly, David. It was like a little twerk of glory. It was like Villa arousal incarnate, David.
He shimmied his man boobs. That was my immediate thought. And then later on, I saw you posted something about shimmy. And shimmy was exactly the word. He shimmied his man boobs right at the... right at Varane. Right at Varane. Right at the defence. Right at the crowd. It was a man boob shimmy, which is... that's a...
Don't SMB me.
That's cock of the school.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. He said, don't SMB me, he said. Yeah. But it was like such an arousing moment. I'm going to be candid. But he... who shimmies last, shimmies longest. United were in a feral fight at this moment to just stay alive, but they knew they'd only lost once in 24 visits to Villa Park. And also, Villa's relentlessness, it did ease once CONCACAF thunders, Leon Bailey exited, which it was like a reprieve, one that United took advantage of in the 86th minute. A goal that even goals that come out of nowhere thought was out of nowhere, crucially scored by the Ten Hag substitute of substitutes. It was Mainu with fine feet, fed Dallo, conjured a cross, which was, oh my God, Davo. How would you describe it? The only adjective, say Beckham-esque.
Yeah, because it had both speed and curl on it. That's why it was Beckham-esque. It just was the pace on it, as well as the dip and the
And the
accuracy.
whip.
Yeah, and Matty Cash, usually so good on these balls, went in, didn't go in with his head, went in, tried to sort of half-heartedly go in with his boot. And wow, amazingly, Scott McTominay, like the super sub comes in, Rog. And, those subs were so crucial. Unai taking off Leon Bailey, as you said, that seemed to sort of, suddenly give United more hope and more time on the ball everywhere. And Scott McTominay, coming on, what a crucial sub,
What a
so
player.
brave,
What a
so
player. He's
brave.
like a tenacious punch of a Scot. I
Yeah.
mean, just a thunderous exclamation point of a header. Fourth goal off the bench, league high, seventh of the season, in just 17 games too. More than in the 3 previous seasons combined. And these are big goals. Brentford and Chelsea scored the winners against now, also against Villa. Watching him reel away in glory with Rasmus Højlund on his piggyback. Another image of a potent post-goal scoring coital joy for United fans to revel in. GFOP at Sean Azzy tweeted us, that man is just Ronaldo in a kilt. And poor Unai Emery on the sideline. I mean, just such a frustrated figure. That vaunted home fortress thing cracked his team. Suddenly like stalling like a Doom B-17 with engines aflame in Masters of the Air. Oh, third consecutive home defeat in all comps. Just 7 points gleaned from the last 18 available. 2 games against United. First, they were 2-0 and cruising. Second, twice as many shots as their opponents. Each one a what if. They had their foot on United's throat until that throat snapped back. It'd be interesting to see how they respond. But Davo, Manchester United, I think the motif for their season now seems to be like a defiant resilience. They didn't dominate. They weren't the more impressive team. You could make the case, but they were the winning team. And this was a win against a big team for them. First time this season, they traveled to a top 9 club and emerged with 3 points, 4 straight wins. Finally scored as many goals as they've conceded. Master class of a substitution by Ten Hag too. That we're talking the dysfunctional locker room, rejection of Ten Hag's dogma, long gone. It's amazing to watch, David, as they play Luton, Fulham, Forest next. The direction, David, could it be like Jim Ratcliffe putting a microscope on every aspect of the club has led to this short-term impact of just a burst of positivity?
Yeah, look, I don't know what it is. I also have got to be a little bit careful because we've had so many false dawns. I mean, no club has more, now that's the win that, Man United are going to be able to go and kick on from that. It feels like it's a new Man United. It feels like we say it so many times during the season and then it doesn't happen.
So let's say it again.
Yeah, let's say it again. What does feel a little bit different about this one for me, it was that defensive organization and tenacity. They looked, other than that, Douglas Luiz goal and Villa are very, very good. They've got a lot of ways they can hurt you. But they just did look very good at the back. And for an away performance and, they're, Aston Villa are a very hard team to control on the break. I thought United defended so well. And yes, you're right. Ten Hag got the substitutions right. He's getting performances out of players all over the pitch. They seem to have that nice mixture of steel, of intensity, of organization, and of flair. And as you said, with the fixture list coming up, United, I think, can now make that push. I don't know that it's, top 4 race with Tottenham. Tottenham are a very good team also, but United looking better now than they have for a long time. Okay, Rog, talking of Tottenham 2, Brighton 1. That is the sound of all Tottenham fans wearing an Apple Watch, closing all of their exercise rings without leaving their living room after falling behind in the 17th minute to a Pascal Gross penalty. Big Ange leads his club to victory like a giant Aussie version of Lady Liberty leading the people. Pap Matar Sarr drew level with a work of pinball wizardry before, in the 96th minute, after coming on as a sub, fresh off Asian Cup duty, Sonny streaked down the left before squaring one to Brennan Johnson to turn home for the winner into the roof of the net. Oh, Spurs finish the weekend in fourth place. Their fans going berserk.
God, what a game. What a feast for the senses. Two teams forged in the footballing minds of their managers who both preach a footballing philosophy of games played on the front foot, entertaining, attacking, taking risks. De Zerbi actually not there. Away with what Brighton described as, quote, very invasive dental surgery in Italy this week. We wish him well. Fully expect him to return looking like Bobby Firmino. Irrespective, Brighton took the lead off a penalty. So Mickey van der Ven on Danny Welbeck violence. Pascal Gross finished with a plum. Spurs equalised. Sarr on his return from Africa Cup of Nations charged through the midfield and then finished in slightly surreal fashion, slapping into the empty net after Lewis Dunk had quite brilliantly blocked his initial shot off his own post. And as you say, Sonny back from a quite dismal South Korean damp squib of an Asian Cup campaign in which Jurgen Klinsmann shouting, "Good Hwang Hee-chan!" was not enough to get them to the title.
Weird,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Isn't that funny how
Yeah.
that works? It was lovely to watch him in the tunnel before the game just go right down the starting lineup and hug each and every one of his teammates. He came on in the 62nd minute along with Brennan Johnson. But honestly, Brighton surging at first. As that game became stretched late, chance after chance, both ends, it was just helter-skelter. But Brighton edging it. And then towards the end, the clock ticking down. And we knew Tottenham and Brighton, they don't do draws. It's been a winner in each of their last 12 games. 97th minute, Maddison to Richarlison, Sonny overlapping, arcs a stunning slow roller across the raw side of that Brighton defensive line. And like his fellow Ange handpicked sub, Brennan Johnson, just there, reading minds. Biggest moment for him since moving from Forest, just slashed it home. Cue scenes, Spurs fans. I mean, just joy for you. And I feel for you. Every bloody game, you get to feel every single emotion. Your team, they're like the cardiac kids. Big Ange's mob, Davo, conceded more goals after the 90th minute than any other Premier League side this season. I think they're the only Premier League side to both win 15 points from losing positions and drop 15 plus points from winning positions during the campaign. You just know you are guaranteed entertainment down the stretch. You just don't know whether it's going to be a rom-com ending or a horror movie. You're permanently just slipping between one and the other. Davo, here, it was joy, with the substitutes making a difference, showing a depth they haven't had during AFCON and the Asian Cup. But David, to see it again, Club Ange rocking out is just one of the most joyous sights in football for me.
Yeah, I don't know what Brighton were doing at the end to get caught. As good as that Maddison ball was, as good as the overlap was, the feed from Richarlison, the run from Sonny, the cross and the finish from Brennan Johnson under pressure. Like, I felt as the ball was coming over, I was like, oh no, Brennan. But Brighton getting caught out the end like that was, I'm sure they're going to have a few sessions about that.
I mean, it's Brighton. They probably won't. I'm sure De Zerbi will just say, do it again, lads. That's how we live, with risk. We die with risk. My teeth hurt. Let's go again. GFOP at Kate Whiteside tweeted us and said, that was the most call an ambulance, but not for me performance I've ever seen. Come on, you Spurs. And Sean Azzy tweeted us and said, 5 years shaved off my life. Worth it. Which I just adore everything about that. And while we're on Spurs, can we just acknowledge how truly crazy it is to watch Bayer Leverkusen under Liverpool's once and future manager Xabi Alonso spank Bayern Munich 3-0 in the big Bundesliga clash. Leverkusen, I'd say this again, now lead by 5 points. And at Dan posted, Bayern Munich winning the Bundesliga every year for more than a decade, then signing Harry Kane and Eric Dyer and not winning it might be the Spursiest thing you'll ever see since Spurs last Spurs.
Oh, it's true. And yet here they sit in fourth place. They're a point above Villa. They're 6 ahead of United in that final Champions League place again. And, even though one of the Robbies, I don't know which one it was, said, Roger, that he fancies Man United to take fourth place from Tottenham, I'm sticking with Big Ange. sticking with the guy who brought me to the dance, I think Big Ange is going to take Tottenham into
I
Europe.
love Big Ange. I love what he brings to life. By the way, there is a possibility Harry Kane will go through his whole career without a trophy and then sign to live out his coda dream of becoming an NFL kicker,
Uh-huh.
coming to the Bears and just being part of a Super Bowl winning team
Oh, I
and
see.
finally winning that title. God, it would be incredible to watch the microphone pass to Harry Kane after he scores a 65-yard field goal to win Super Bowl
Becomes
XXXVL
MVP as the kicker.
XXLV.
I love it.
Yeah, and they'll give him the microphone, and Harry Kane will just be like, Harry will be like, "You've got to fight for your right to party." Or thinking he's like very American now. It'll be magnificently redemptive.
Okay, to the other end of the table, Luton 1, Sheffield United 3. An incredible game for Everton fans and VAR enthusiasts alike. After a Cameron Archer goal had the Blades up 1-0, VAR spotted a Luton handball in the box in the 33rd minute and awarded a Sheffield penalty, which James McAtee slotted home to double the Sheffield lead. But as we all know, Rog, VAR giveth and VAR taketh away. Another video review, another handball penalty awarded somewhat dubiously, this time to Luton in the 49th minute, with Carlton Morris converting from the spot. But it was all for naught as the Blades put this game to bed off a Vinicius Souza 72nd minute stinger. Luton now only 1 point off of the drop zone, Rog.
Yeah, I felt like we were tuning in to see Luton make me so dark and miserable. We're pulling even further out of sight of the relegation zone. Instead, they were humbled by Sheffield United, who somehow, what is dead may never die, picked themselves up after being absolutely left for roadkill by Aston Villa last week and glean their first road win of the season themselves with 26% possession, 2 shots on goal, yet still scored 3 times. That's the way. You snap the possibility of being the worst Premier League team of all time. Whatever happens this season, Blades fans, you might just have to settle for being the second worst.
Fulham 3, Bournemouth 1. It was a game of conflicted rooting interest for the Michael B. Jordan, Tim Ream crossover market. Make that buddy cop movie happen, Hollywood. But alas, it was Fulham who topped the Cherries at Craven Cottage. First half goals from Bobby de Cordova-Reid and Rodrigo Muniz had the Cottagers up from the jump. Marcos Senesi grabbed one back for Bournemouth in the 50th minute, but 2 minutes later it was Muniz again who responded for Fulham, completing his brace and securing all 3 points for the Londoners. The teams swapped spots in the table. Fulham up to 12th, Bournemouth to 13th.
Yeah, Fulham fans have a new hero. 22-year-old Brazilian Rodrigo Muniz, who got young enough to be Tim Ream's grandson. Such a slow start to his Fulham career too. Went out on loan, has been plagued by injuries, scored his first goal last weekend and teared up upon doing so. But this game, he looked like a different human being. He did work, hard work, ran the channels, bodied defenders, was a pest, direct when needed, just a hungry confidence of a striker who is feeling it. And it was lovely to watch after such a bloody tough start to his career, unplayable at times against the War Cherries. And with Broha signed by Fulham and Raul Jimenez to come back from injury, the Cottagers suddenly stacked in attack. And on this day, honestly, Muniz looked like Ronaldo, the original Ronaldo, but in lily white.
Wolves 0, Brentford 2. Finally, an answer to the age-old question of who would win in a fight, a swarm of bees or a pack of wolves. Brentford goals from Danish Prince of Darkness, Christian Norgard, and Premier League anti-hero Ivan Toney were the difference in this one, Rog. Wolves stay 10th, while the bees jumped to 14th.
Yeah, Toney actually killed off the game with a fine poacher's finish after Brentford pressed, a flagging Wolves into submission. Stealth my moment of the weekend. The Brentford forward then ran to the camera after his 3rd goal in 4 games since his return from that long 8-month ban and pointed to his hand where he'd had the word, Davo, him, tattooed across the top of his knuckles. He later said, "When you think you're the man, you put in a him performance." And here's what's fascinating though, David. The him tattoo is in exactly the same font and exactly the same place as Jean Morant's him tattoo.
Oh.
So there's clearly multiple the mans. So Toney, by definition, is
it's
not
a multiverse, is what you're saying.
I mean, I was like, there can't be 2 the mans. That means you're both just a man. And we probably got to get the 2 of them together, Ivan Toney and John Moran, which would be quite a night
That's a
out
good
together.
booking. That's a good Men in Blazers show booking.
We
I like
need
it.
It would be a segment we could call a him off. It'll be like ego Spider-Man pointing at Spider-Man.
Yeah. See, when I first saw it, I thought he was just reminding us of his pronouns, Rog, but it's not. It's actually he's coming out and he's saying, "I'm the man."
Yeah.
But also at the same
I'm
thing,
the
it's
man.
it's sort of John Morant denial.
Yeah.
It's sort of a tribute, but also denial at the same time. Yeah. Difficult.
I mean, I must say that's quite that. I mean, first of all, what's the plural of him? If you know, what is the plural? Is it the mans? Is it the men? Maybe they could agree on being okay. We're not just the man. We've agreed from here on in to be the men.
Mans.
Yeah,
they.
I mean, but also him fighting, Davo.
Yeah,
that would be that would be an Olympic sport like that. Him fighting. Who wouldn't watch him fighting? By the way, my favorite footballer tattoo. So, God, is him fighting the same as cockfighting between schools? I don't know. Is a cock a him? I don't know. These are questions which are way above my pay grade. By the way, possibly my favorite footballer tattoo, the him tattoo, since Memphis Depay had the word success tattooed on the inside of his bottom lip. For the record, Dwight McNeil is him. That's the funniest part of all of this, right?
Dwight McNeil has that tattoo too.
No, he's him. He doesn't need it. He knows.
Oh, I see.
It's in here that matters. But Dwight McNeil is really him. He's the him of hymns. The
Dwight
cock
McNeil,
of hymns. The
Dwight
cock
McNeil
of hymns.
has although. Maybe.
He's got introverted on the inside of his lip. Cock of hymns.
Okay, now to a game kicking off right about the time this podcast is released. Struggling Chelsea, certainly in the league, head to even struggling Crystal Palace for a Davo derby south of the river. Rog, normally this game is a win-win for me, giving my enjoyment of both teams, but I fear it's going to be lose-lose, giving both of their league form this season.
Yeah, it's a wacky time, a knife fight really between two managers on the edge. Although I doubt Roy Hodgson's got a knife. I imagine he probably used what's a really old kind of cutlass. I think he pulls out a cutlass for a knife fight.
Scabbard.
Yes. Oh my God.
Rock. Yeah.
Oh, you got Palace fans demanding Hodgson go. With Elise and Eze both out injured. Poch focusing on the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, and the Champions of Amortization Trophy.
Yeah, I think we got that in the bag.
To protect himself from Thiago Silva's wife's tweets. Godspeed to that. Anyway, I think Hodgson probably uses a saber, don't you think? Like a Toledo sword gifted to him.
No,
by
I think an
Spanish
épée.
conquistador.
A foil. I think is more Roy.
It was gifted to me by a Spanish conquistador. I used to know. I used to know. In my youth.
I met him on a cruise, which means a galleon. Yeah.
Can we get a score prediction, by the way?
I mean, I think maybe 0-0. I mean, it said it's going to be a lose-lose for both teams. I think a 0-0 does neither of them any favors.
Oh my God!
So I think that's what it'll be.
God,
I mean, Chelsea seem to have something in cup competitions. They've got it all wrong. They seem to think that that's when they need to get it up for it. They like single elimination, Rog. They don't enjoy the toil of an entire league season.
God, can you imagine Roy and Fernando just bonding on the galleon? Both of them sucking on a lemon which they shared to fight off scurvy. And thus we were bonded forever. Hence my sword. That fight, actually, to be honest, would be pretty incredible to watch. Poch is proper hard, but Roy.
Yeah,
Roy
he's beaten. He's beaten and recovered from scurvy more times than he's managed in the Premier League, Rog.
He's beaten consumption several times. I mean,
the plague.
Yes. What do you mean the plague? How can it be the? There's many of them.
The plagues.
Yeah. Yes. The plagues.
Them plagues.
Do you need me to list them? My God, that fight would be incredible. Right, I bet you Roy fights like Daniel Day-Lewis in Gangs of New York with his pants pulled up really high.
No, he turns up to a fight on a horse wearing a suit of armor with a lance. That would be Roy.
Who wants me?
Oh dear. Nottingham Forest 2, Newcastle 3, a game that had more back and forth than the jiggling of an exposed Toonarby belly. Bruno Guimaraes started the scoring for Newcastle in the 10th minute before Anthony Elanga answered in the 26th. For the Tricky Trees, the Magpies went back up 2-1 in the 43rd minute of a Fabian Schär clinical finish, but it was human law firm Callum Hudson-Odoi who again pulled Forest level just before the half. But time is a flat circle, Rog, and it was Guimaraes again who closed the loop on this game in the 66th minute with a pinpoint finish, completing his brace and putting Newcastle up for good. Magpies hop to 7th, while Forest hover 2 points above the relegation zone.
Yeah, Newcastle, back to the old traditional style that's embedded in their DNA of being football's ultimate. Can't take their eyes off, cannot defend suddenly, but cannot stop scoring. Pure entertainers. Forest, however, increasingly grim. Problems do run deeper than Matt Turner's recent wobbles in goal. In fact, it's impossible to watch Matt Seltz concede without thinking these words. Matt Turner would have saved that. However, most American fans' eyes are currently cast upon Gio Reyna. Came on here as a 73rd minute substitute, didn't put a foot wrong,
Yeah, looked
which is
lively.
the good news. Didn't put the world on fire. Kind of,
Yeah.
what would you say? Wants the ball, doesn't seem daunted by his new surrounds. I mean, it is grim there, but played safely to avoid a mistake. How would
Yeah,
you
look, I
describe
think
it?
he looked lively, played between the lines. You know, they've got a lot of seem to have a lot of players who play in similar positions and roles, Forest.
Yeah,
Um, and so it's tough to find space in the middle of that attack. But I thought
yeah,
he looked lively.
yeah.
Thought
I
like
mean,
he looks Premier League quality.
he does. I mean, he wants the ball is the thing I love most about him. It's pretty bloody daunting to arrive at Forest, 2 points off the relegation zone. That points deduction, possibly incoming. You've been dumped there by your new agent at Forest because that's his staging ground, hopefully for a bigger move. And for him to want that ball, you saw him call for it, you saw him point to where he wanted it to go. I mean, those are all positives. The thing for me is watching the US, in the bubble, the US soccer fan, deep bubble I'm talking about here, people who, and you know who you are because we love all of you, but there's a number of fans who watch the entire game through the bubble, through the lens of the US bubble. And you read their comments on Twitter afterwards, like Gio must start now, or the other side of it, calling his move a bust immediately after 2 games in, 2 substitute appearances. And I just say it may turn out to be, but this is just 2 games in, and this is Gio's reality. That's point one for me. He's not the Gio of our dreams when he was 18 or 19. He is currently on salvage mode. He's at Forest because why is he at Forest, David? Because other bigger teams didn't want him, right? That's where he is.
Because it went wrong, at Dortmund for him ultimately. And you're right. And other teams didn't come in with willing to pay his wages in the way that Forest, presumably did. We don't know every aspect of the deal.
I said to them, I said to Everton, get in there. They said, we don't have any money. I said, we're in a post money world. Just use the 777. By the way, 777 are buying Everton with monopoly money.
Pretty much.
I can exclusively reveal. But I mean, you're right about the many people in those positions. I mean, there's a knock on him when you speak to football front office people, footballingly, culturally, injury wise, those kind of combinations. I don't think those are fair, but that's where he's in. He needs to prove himself against those, and he's doing it in a position where, as you say, David, it's Forest strength. Elanga, Callum Hudson-Odoi, both providing the counter-attacking pace that Nuno craze, both scoring in this game.
And both on their own redemption missions as well.
And Morgan Gibbs-White, who is really Forest everything. Gio's a very good player. What I'm fascinated by is our ability to take very good footballers and to anoint them as truly greats before their times.
Yeah, it's why we talk a lot about that is not a straight line from youthful brilliance to being seasoned and brilliant pros, and it's why Tim Ream is such a shining example for for American fans, because Tim Ream is just like, he's done it. He's a seasoned, brilliant pro, and as you know, don't know how many more years he's got left in him, but he's so valuable for the US men's national team because of just how much experience and brilliance he has coming through and showing that he has what it takes to go and be a professional. And that's what, frankly, right now, Gio is going to have to start building for himself a real professional career. At the moment that it's hard, not easy.
And that's where, as you say, Tim Ream, I say where Saka's incredible, still so young, but that consistent brilliance. It's not been flickering. It's just consistent delivery of wonder. And whatever happens for Gio at Nottingham Forest, whether he thrives, please God, or flails like Weston McKennie at Leeds last season, and look at how he soared in response to that, returning to Juventus, Weston. The one thing I do know is Gio will learn so much in this moment. He will get his minutes. He will be worked into the rotation. But how we see him is just not the same as how English fans currently see him. That respect, those minutes, they'll have to be earned, not just given. We almost have to be aware of our own impatience and give Gio room to grow into what we want him to be, what I believe he can be, rather than just anoint him and then just inevitably be disappointed.
Okay, Rog, before we go, a quick reminder about everything that we've got happening at Men in Blazers this week, powered by Michelob Ultra Superior Light Beer. A new episode of European Nights tomorrow. Do not miss that. But Rog, for now, can we get a toast to close us out?
Yeah, I want to raise my Mickey Ultra to Daryl DK, the 23-year-old. What are you laughing at?
A Mickey Ultra would be such a good nickname.
That'd be amazing. I've got to get a brand deal.
I was Mickey Davis in school, as we've spoken before. Mickey Ultra would have been amazing.
Mickey Arteta's face on that would just be incredible. I can't think of a better personification for the brand. But this is a sad moment for Daryl DK, the 23-year-old West Bromwich striker from Edmond, Oklahoma, who just 5 games into his return from a 300-day absence due to an Achilles injury, was carted off the field in tears at the weekend in a fashion which was heartbreaking to witness. And anyone who listens to our show will have heard Daryl DK's come on many times. He was recently on, beautiful interview of Hurt Gomez on Vamos. This is the 5th major injury he's had since arriving at West Brom 2 years ago. He's already had 414 days out with a series of brutal rehabs, physically brutal, psychologically brutal. Reported post-game, he suffered another Achilles injury, but in the other foot to the previous one, that kept him out for 8 months. This is a gent who worked so hard to get back, who supported his teammates throughout. Their messages to him in this moment, they truly love him, show him just how much he's loved by the players, the fans. And when you speak to Daryl, you can sense all he wants to do is to play football. He's an amazing human being with a big, big heart. We wish his family, the DK family, love, wishes for strength and health at this time of challenge to better days ahead for all.
Okay, you can follow us on Twitter at Men in Blazers, at MC Davis, at Roger Bennett, on Instagram at Men in Blazers, at MC Davis, on Facebook, Men in Blazers, Twitch, twitch.tv/Men in Blazers. Also our TikTok, look for it at Men in Blazers. You can always email us at meninblazers@gmail.com. We love and cherish getting your emails, especially those of you who have been executed. We want to hear exactly what that feels like before you get
and
executed the morning.
Flies who've had their wings plucked off, please be in touch.
Similar. Okay, Venderpunk Rog.
War Pig.
Was that a Rabona?
I like snacks.
Balds win.
Take that, Gloria.
Balds lose.
To Tweed.
Abracado, rock on, mate.
Kung Fu Fight in America. Love you, David.
Love you, Rog.
Oh, love you. Cockfighting, him fighting, cutlass fighting. We've covered it all.
Yeah, shimmy your man boobs.
Listen to the full version of this podcast and all our podcasts wherever you get your pods. But first, subscribe here for more Men in Blazers videos and courage.